So Airtable has been one of the most popular ways to store and manage business data for years. And for about 6 of those years, that's meant keeping your data in Airtable and using Softr on top of that to turn your data into a real app. Client portals, internal tools, dashboards. Airtable held the data, and then Softr made it usable by real humans. That's changed. Softr has its own native database now, which means that Airtable isn't the required piece anymore. You can move your data into Softr, run your automations there, and have one system instead of 2. And a lot more people are asking about this in the last week, because Airtable just agreed to be acquired by Bending Spoons for $1.285 billion. And I'll say more about that in a second. But I want to be upfront. That's not really the reason to watch this video. The reasons why people actually migrate have been true for a while, and they're all about money and access. So I'm going to walk you through the whole migration, the data, and then the automations, which is the part that actually breaks people. And I'll tell you exactly why in a bit, because it's not what you'd guess. And it's the difference between a clean migration and a week of quiet, invisible failures. So if you're multitasking, come back to me, especially for the automations piece. Quick disclosure, this video is sponsored by Softr. I've built client apps on this platform, and everything I'm about to show you is what I would actually do. I help builders and just regular people turn AI into actual income. So if you want to learn how to build and sell AI solutions, how to actually make money with AI, join my school community of over 3,000 members doing that exact thing for real. The link is down below. And if you're a business owner and you just want solutions running in your business done for you, book a call with me. That link is down below too. Okay, now let's dive in. So the acquisition first quickly, and then I'm dropping it. Bending Spoons signed a deal to acquire Airtable on August 4th. It hasn't closed yet, it still needs regulatory approval, and nothing about your account has changed. No prices went up, and if somebody told you otherwise, they're making it up for clicks. But Bending Spoons does have a well-documented history of raising prices hard on the products that they buy. So it's fair to be curious about what's going to happen in a year. But if you migrate a working system today purely because of a headline, that's a bad decision. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Here's the reason why people move, and it has nothing to do with the news. Per seat pricing. Every person that you want to give access to costs money. So you end up rationing access. You've got a VA that needs to see one table and a client that wants to check their own project status. And both of those are line items on your bill. Softr doesn't charge per seat, so access stops being a budget conversation. Record limits. Airtable bases cap out at between 50,000 and 125,000 depending on your plan, and performance starts to sag well before that once you've got linked records feeding lookups feeding rollups. Softr databases go to 200,000 records per database, 1 million per workspace, and you're not fighting API rate limits on every page load, and permissions. Airtable's permission model is built for a team of editors who all trust each other. It all falls apart the second that one external person needs to see one slice and nothing else. Those 3 things were true last year, and they'll be true next year. That's just how it is. Now, before you do anything, there's a decision to make, and people skip it and then do 3 weeks of unnecessary work. There are 2 different things that people mean when they say they're moving to Softr. Option 1 is your data stays in Airtable, and Softr connects to it as a data source. Softr builds the front end, the logins, the permissions, so it's a 2-way sync, nothing moves. Option 2 is your data actually lands in the Softr databases, and Airtable is out of the picture. If your only problem is that Airtable interfaces can't do what you need for external users, Option 1 fixes that this afternoon, but it does not fix the bill, the record caps, or the rate limits. You're still paying Airtable and you're still capped. So be honest about which problem you have, because I've watched somebody do a full data migration because they were annoyed with permissions, which is like moving houses because you don't like the paint. And the rest of this video is for option 2. Step 1, and it's the boring one, so it's the one of course everyone skips, is clean your base before you import it. Go table by table in Airtable. Delete views that nobody's opened in 2 years. Delete the columns named Notes 2 and Temp. I had a client base last month with 14 views on one table, and they used 3. And every one of those is something that you would otherwise have to evaluate on the other side. Then find your unusual field types and make a note of them. Softr's import handles the normal stuff well. Linked records, lookups, formulas, they all come across well. But where there's no exact equivalent, you get a sensible default rather than a perfect copy. Duration is the one thing that Softr calls out specifically. So walk the base, list every duration field, every button field, every field doing something exotic. List is your checklist for later. 10 minutes of work turns, why does this look wrong, into, oh right, I knew about this one. And take a manual Airtable snapshot before you touch anything. Airtable takes them automatically, but take one with your name on it. Step 2 is the import. And this part is genuinely fast. In your Softr dashboard, open databases and choose the Airtable import. You authenticate Airtable, then pick your base and click import. Softr built this as a one-click thing, and for a normal base, it does what it says. Tables, structure, linked fields, the relationships between everything. Big bases take a while, and some of that is Airtable's own API speed rather than anything that Softr is doing on the way in. So start it and then go do something else. Step 3, verify it. Table by table, record count by record count. Airtable open on one screen, Softr on the other, and check the actual number of records on every table. Then open 3 or 4 records with linked fields and confirm that the links point at the right records on the other side. Then pull out that list of weird fields and check every one specifically. It's possible for an import to build all of your tables, bring most of your records, and then stop. And it looks fine at a glance because all the structure is right. And you find out 3 days later when somebody goes looking for last March. 10 minutes, and it's the highest return 10 minutes in the whole process. Now the automations. And this is what I flagged at the start. And here's why it's the part that breaks migrations. When your data migration goes wrong, it goes wrong loudly. Records are missing, somebody notices, you fix it. When the automation migration goes wrong, nothing happens. That's the entire failure mode. The email doesn't send, the Slack alert doesn't fire, the status doesn't update, and nobody notices for 2 weeks. Because the absence of a thing is invisible. So the rule is your Airtable automations do not migrate themselves, and you cannot assume that any of them work until you've watched each one run. Start by taking an inventory of what you actually have. Open Airtable automations and write down every single one, what triggers it, what it does, and whether anyone would notice if it stopped. Most people find that 2 or 3 have already been broken for a few months already, which in and of itself is a useful discovery. Then rebuild them in Softr workflows. And the good news is that the model is more capable than what you're leaving. Softr workflows trigger on database events. So a record created, updated, or deleted. And you can put conditions on that trigger, so it only fires when a status is changed to approved, or when a sentiment field comes back as negative, instead of firing on every edit and then filtering afterward. And it's worth checking your field-specific triggers carefully during the rebuild, because that's the exact kind of thing that silently misfires, and you won't know. But the trigger type that Airtable simply doesn't have is the user action one. A workflow can fire when somebody clicks a button in your app, or submits a form, and the record context comes with it. It can show the user a loading screen while it runs, and then return the result to the interface. That's a completely different kind of tool. In Airtable, your automations run somewhere off to the side. In Softr, they're part of the app that your user is standing in. You get branching, conditions, loops, wait steps, and AI steps in the flow. So you can do things like read an incoming request, decide how urgent it is, and route it. And it connects out to Gmail, Slack, calendars, and the rest of your stack, plus back to Airtable or Notion or Google Sheets if you're keeping any of those. And here's the practical part. Build one workflow, use the testing tab, and generate a real test event. Submit the actual form, click the actual button, add the actual record, then check that it ran and did what you expected. Then build the next one at a time. It is slower, and it's the only way that you'll trust the result. And this is worth checking before you rebuild anything. A lot of people are paying extra for a tool that watches their Airtable base and then sends an email. If that's you, look hard at whether that whole subscription just disappeared. That's often the line item that pays for the migration itself. Now the front end, and this is really why you came to Softr in the first place. Build your pages, add your blocks, and point them at your Softr database tables. Then set up user groups and control what each group sees down to the page, the block, and the record. So your client Maria logs in and sees Maria's 12 projects, not a filtered view that she could just unfilter. She structurally cannot see anybody else's data. And that matters a lot when that data is payroll or intake forms. And your forms get better on the way over. Airtable forms are one page and they're fairly limited. Softr does multi-step forms with conditional logic. So a question only shows up if the previous answer makes it relevant. And the submission can kick off a workflow directly. Now I know what some of you are thinking. I've got 5 years in this space. There are automations pointing at it that I don't fully remember building, and my whole team knows where everything lives. This is gonna blow up my business for 2 weeks. And I get that, and I'm not gonna tell you to rip it all out on a Friday. I would say run both for 2 weeks minimum. Softr becomes the real system. Airtable sits there read only. Nobody edits it. Anything that turns out to be missing, you go get it, and then cancel. When I was starting out, I was making $50,000 a year doing marketing for an insulation company. And the thing that kept me stuck was never that a move was impossible. It was that I had never done the work to find out what that move would cost. So it stayed scary in my head and I sat still. The parallel run is the price of not being scared. And it's 2 weeks of 1 extra subscription. And if your base is big or genuinely gnarly, Softr will do a free 30-minute migration call with you and map your setup before you touch anything. So that thing that I told you about at the start, the part that breaks migrations, it's the automations and that they fail silently. Your data problems announce themselves. Your automation problems just sit there not happening, which is why you inventory each one before you start and watch everyone run before you call it done. Okay, quick recap. 1, decide whether you're connecting Airtable as a data source or just migrating everything over. Different problems, different answers. 2, clean the base first. List your unusual field types. Take a snapshot. 3, import through Softr databases. 4, verify. Record counts on every table. Spot check linked records. Check every field on your list. 5, inventory your Airtable automations. Rebuild them in workflows one at a time, and test each one with a real event before moving on. 6, build the front end. Set your user groups and permissions, and upgrade your forms while you're in there. 7, run parallel for 2 weeks with Airtable being read-only, and then cancel. And if you want to learn how to build and sell AI solutions, how to actually make money with AI, come join my school community of over 3,000 members doing that exact thing for real. That link is down below. If you want to test Softr's AI co-builder yourself, the link is down in the description, and you'll get 200 free credits to go build your own version of this. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.